What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drewbie Wilson, with more than 2 decades in sales. I've heard it, seen it, lived through a lot of it, and now I'm here bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community, because that's what sales is all about. Connecting with great people, sharing stories, helping our community get the thing that they want out of life and getting paid handsomely for it. And along the way, meeting some incredible individuals, much like today's guest. He's a friend of mine who I have had the pleasure of literally watching spend his last dollar to invest in himself to learn a new skill set so that he could build a business to take care of his family. And within the last few years, I've literally watched this man change his whole life. So I need you to help welcome my friend, the owner of 3B Credit Health, Mr. Kevin Faulkner. What's up, brother?
Man, thank you for having me, dude. I appreciate those words, man. Appreciate your role, man, in my growth. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been really amazing to watch you take your journey and to really focus on doing the right thing within the community, man. I've literally seen you, like I said, invest your last dollar to be a part of something so that you could learn and grow and embrace every second of it. Now, before we get into some of that, I like to start the show off with a bang, man. I want to know, what's your craziest sales story?
Grew up back in the 90s, man, with sales. So I've been doing it a long time. And man, this is when it was like transactional sales. And I'm telling you, there was a lot of stuff that went on. I will tell you about somebody that I worked with that, and we can get into this, but man, this guy, man, Frank Emerson, that taught me a lot about sales. And Frank was, man, he was a stoner, man. Frank was like always stoned. He was tall, skinny, man. I worked with him in the meat business, man. We sold steaks, chicken, and seafood, man. Very
Come on.
transactional sales, door to door. We're driving down the road one day, man, and I can get into stories all day long about Frank, man, but we're driving down the road one day, and he tells me something that has stuck with me and served me forever because I've always been like a real nervous guy, man. I've always had a lot of issues with that. I know a lot of us are in sales, and look forward to talking about that over the next hour. He says, man, and he's smoking a joint, like literally as he says this, but he says, man, he said, look, we're passing by all these houses because we're up in the hills of Austin and we're about to start door knocking that morning. And he says, it's not the yeses that pay you, it's the no's. He said, we make about $100 a day. We hit 100 houses a day. It's $1 for every no. So when they tell you no, just say, thank you for that dollar and move to the next one and let's roll. And man, that changed the whole direction, the whole dynamics of sales for me because of that. So I'll tell that story because some of the greatest lessons we learn, man, are from some of the greatest experiences. And as you know, in sales, it's these characters, man, that you learn from along the way. So it's a lot of fun, man.
I have to agree, man. I have met some absolute characters in sales. And what's funny is that, I'm the meme lord and I love memes. And when you start looking at sales as a culture, as a community, there's a lot of those kind of like characters that stand out, right? The stoner sales guy that everybody's like, this dude is fucking stoned all the time. And yet he is just closing left and right. Like, how does he even do it? And then you've got, one of my favorites is the middle store manager, and he's that guy that's got like the slick back hair, and he's always smoking cigars, and he's got a leather jacket that he's been wearing for fucking 10 years, and he's always talking about, back in my day, I used to close this, that, whatever, and you're just like, yeah, all right, man, I got you, dog. I got you. That is, like you said, one of the coolest things about sales is the community that you get to be a part of, the people that you get to meet. And I'm grateful because I had a chance, from sales, getting to meet you and getting to experience your journey and seeing what can happen when someone takes that advice and truly implements what they've learned from the advice, man. And that's something that I really hope the listeners of this show get that value and they take and they implement, because I know that's really where the results come from, right? When you start doing that work. And so, Kevin, what I'd love to know, having spent your last dollar to invest in yourself, to learn these new skills, what was that like?
So I've been in sales my whole life, but it's like the light bulb never came on. I never really got it. I always lived in a real scarcity mindset, man. I don't know. I just never put it all together. I had been growing. I started listening to Grant Cardone in 2014. And Grant back in the day was a big transactional sales coach. And I had actually stumbled across a car dealership that I worked at, had his tapes or whatever in our what DVR things or whatever. And so I was watching those videos of him. But I didn't really know what to do with what he said, but I liked it. I knew, okay, because the guy's talking about accountability. The guy's talking about ways that if you say this when the customer says this, talking about objections, it's all transactional stuff, which I'm not a big fan of these days with sales, but it got me moving in the right track. So I had been doing that since 2014, just kind of inching closer. And I think I had to go through all that, man, to grow into that point to where the top of the jar was looser, because that's the only way, man, that I think I had the courage to actually invest in myself like what you saw.
Yeah, it's crazy the journey that we go on through sales when you kind of have these different periods where it's like, hey, I got into this new position, absolutely crushed it. You're riding the roller coaster ride up, you're learning, you're doing well, you're figuring things out, and then you kind of hit that plateau where you like pause right at the top and you kind of start looking around and you're like, all right, well, what the fuck's going on? And all of a sudden you just start falling out from under yourself because it's like now you know all the bad things that can happen from the product or the service that you're selling. So you're kind of trying to avoid those and you're starting to see where they pop up and you get in this weird zone of like, oh shit, man, everything was easy when I first got started. But now that I know, oh man, I'm kind of like, now that I know, and I got to talk about it. And it kind of messes up your sales. So you go through that cycle and it's when you can push through the other side and just be like, well, yeah, I know. And that's part of what makes me good is that I know so I can help people avoid it. And if I focus on the good parts of what I do instead of all the weird shit that happens along the way, I mean, it's a journey that you go through. And something that I know a lot of people can struggle with is making that investment in themselves because they're kind of like, well, hey man, I don't want to spend money to learn more when like I already know what I need to do. I need to go do the work. Like that's what's going to happen. But ultimately, as you mentioned, there's that level of accountability and camaraderie. It's being around other people that are motivating you and pushing you to get out there and do what they do. And I'm grateful to say you're one of those guys for me, Kevin. Watching your story and seeing you do what you do along the way is really motivating me and keeping me inspired. But there's something else that I think you're really great at, and you kind of touched on this earlier, is that you don't love transactional sales as much. And we understand sales is transactional, but I think what you do is very special. So I'd love to ask, like, what would you say is kind of your sales secret superpower?
Dude, I really don't consider myself a marketer. I like to think of myself as a marketer. I don't really think of myself as a salesperson per se, man, even though I really am. But I don't approach it that way. I'm not, I mean, I was, like I said, I was raised in that transactional sales environment in car dealerships and things like that, man. And it just wasn't I never was successful. I think the most, cars I ever sold was like 18, like in a month, man, the most. And I mean, I've got the talent, I've got the skill set. It's just I never could get that part together with the transactional part. It just never was me. But whenever I figured out relationship selling, or not figured it out, but had it brought to me as a concept, I was like, oh, you mean all I've got to do is listen to this person tell me what their problem is and then give them the solution with it for it, and we can all be friends. They can move forward, I can move forward, we can all move forward together. Wow. And I ran with that shit, man.
Mm.
Because my whole life philosophy, man, is like we're up on a mountain, we're on a mountain, you, me, and the rest of the people that we choose to be around, and we're pushing each other, man. We're pulling each other. We're on the side of each other, encouraging each other. I mean, that's just life in general. So when I started looking at sales from that aspect instead of a scarcity mindset of thinking, oh, I've just got to go get what I can get, all of a sudden I found success.
Isn't it funny how that works, man? You stop focusing on the sale and you start focusing on serving the people, and all of a sudden you start making way more sales and more people are showing up going, "Hey, I heard you're the guy to talk to about this thing that I need. What do I got to do next? Where do I sign up? How do I pay you the money to do the thing? Because I want what they got." And what I've really enjoyed about your story and what I hope the listeners take away from this and start doing is following you on social media and watching how you create content and how you literally just show up and share value and create. The way that you create and write content is beautiful because of the way that you share your stories. And that's really what sales and this whole podcast is about, is stories, and the way that you've learned how to take, instead of just speaking it, but actually putting it into words and putting it on your, your different social platforms, I think is something amazing. And I can also say to the listener that you are someone who, anytime credit repair in any sort of fashion comes up, and I know we're in a lot of the same groups, but a lot of times we're in just like weird off groups that we don't happen to know each other. Or like all of a sudden I see, hey, who's the guy for credit repair? And it's like, oh, Kevin Faulkner, 3B credit help, 3B credit. Like, it's crazy to see the amount of goodwill that you've built into the community. I know it's not crazy. I mean, I know why it's happened, but this is what I want the listener to understand, that when you literally just show up and just do the right thing for people, they come back in droves. And it doesn't happen overnight. It does happen though. And again, I've seen you get tagged 10, 15, 20 times to the point where anybody's like, "Hey, did anybody tag Kevin yet? Like, did anybody tag Kevin yet?" For someone who had that kind of anxiety, that little bit of nervousness early on in your sales career, what was it like making that transition to being more open, being more vulnerable?
For me, it was confidence, man. It was, I started getting around successful people. I'm a firm believer in you are who your closest friends are. When I started getting around that, people like you, you're one of those people, man. And when I started learning about you, man, and other people, and figuring out, oh, these successful people they're normal. They're just like me. You mean they've got fear, they've got anxiety. They're just really, the only difference between me and you, Drewbie, or me and somebody else is that maybe they've had longer to do the work, but the formula is still the same. So I can do it too. Oh, okay. Well, that was a big deal for me. That like took 1,000,000 pounds off of my shoulders, and I was just like, oh, okay. Now I know I can do this. So then I was able to get comfortable in those rooms because I knew that those people are just like I am, and that opened the door to authenticity. Did I
Mm,
say that right?
authenticity. I was just gonna say, hey man,
I don't know if I said that
I
right.
want to
I'm an
pause
East
for a
Texas
second.
guy, man. I'm an East Texas guy. I trip on my words, but
No, that's beautiful. You got it. Keep going.
it let me get comfortable, man. And then I was okay with just being me. And people love that. And then when you're just you, and then you're passing out favors, because one of my other things that I live by is I want everybody to owe me, man. When I die, I want them to stand around my casket and be like, damn, man, pocket full of IOUs for that dude, man, and he's gone.
Mm.
That's what I want, bro. That's why people take care of me the way they take care of me. And I don't hurt for anything since I've taken on that approach to life.
I love that so much. That is 100% going to be a clip that we pull from this episode, man, because that is a mindset, is a mentality that I can get behind. And I want you to take a moment to like really embrace that because, I know you got a book that you're going to be working on if you're not already, calling you out publicly for that. But the mindset of, hey, when I go, I want people to stand around with a pocket full of IOUs for me. That is so powerful, Kevin. I absolutely love that. I'm taking that to heart. That was for me today, y'all. I don't know if you guys will like care about that, but that message was for me, Kevin. Thank you for that, sir. That means the world. That message was for me today, man. I'm telling you what.
It's crazy is, man, my bank account has steadily grown ever since. It's like if you can get past that scarcity mindset and live with an abundance mindset, because I hear people all the time, man, saying, be careful with your time, measure your time, and so forth. And I agree with that. You have to do that. That's scalability. We could go on, talk for 8 hours on that topic. You have to be careful. But if you've got the right people around you and you take that approach, you cannot fail.
Mm, mm. And one of the things that you said there was authenticity. And this is a myth that has come up a couple times along the way in conversation is to be great at sales, you have to be like this character, or you kind of have to like fake it till you make it. And I disagree with that. I think what you said, that authenticity is what truly makes the greatest sales professionals, because you don't need to do business with everyone that has money and a pulse. Like that's not, it's just not sustainable, first of all. But I also believe that when you're doing business with people who are of like mind, who are similar, who have the same core values and mission, it truly makes business more, it's not a transaction. It's a, hey, we're making this commitment to each other where we're going to have this exchange of value, and in the end everybody is going to have more because of it. And that authenticity is exactly what you said, is you don't have to go and try to fake it. You can be an East Texas boy with a little bit of an accent and just be who you are. And from the moment you've embraced that, because again, I've had the pleasure of watching, I've seen it explode. And I want the listener to hear, like, if you're hearing this, understand that you don't have to be someone other than yourself to be successful in sales. What's going to happen is you're going to find little nuances from different professionals that you meet, that you hear on shows like this, and you're going to be like, well, I like that, I don't like this part. And you can take and absorb some of that and make it your own. And that's what's truly going to make you successful, is finding your best version of yourself. And Kevin, I've seen you do it, man. When you came in, you were a little overweight, you were, having struggles in your relationship, and you made that commitment and said, all right, cool, I am going to be the best of me. And in doing so, you've now created better relationships. Like I know you and your, wife have a greater relationship. I know that your business is better than it's ever been. So when you think about that, how hard was it to step into being authentic, knowing that you had come from a past with a little bit of that anxiety and that nervousness?
I'm still working on that anxiety and that nervousness because that's
Come
something that
on.
comes. I'm bipolar, and that's something that comes with that. Is there's a that I'm actually getting into meditation and doing some things like that because you want to get to a place where you can, to be at the biggest tables, you've got to be able to communicate with the people at the biggest tables. And you can't
Mm,
show nerves in that environment. So that's like one of my 2024 goals, is to get better at that. But one thing that I've figured out, and it may be because I'm 53 years old, it may be just because of some of the experience, and you've been in some pretty amazing rooms. Everybody that we ever meet, everybody, the whole world, write the word insecure at the top of the page and then start reverse engineering. And that's the approach I take when I walk into a room. Is I have a conversation or I get on a sales call. Because when you are talking to a potential client, you're talking to somebody that's, they're scared. They've got a problem to solve. They don't know how to solve it, or they wouldn't be wasting their time on the phone with you. They're looking for a solution to that problem. They are entrusting you with their time to talk to them. And if you're a nervous wreck when you get on that call, you've just got two scared people there, and you're not going to accomplish anything. You're not going to solve any problems with that. And
mm.
by the way, that goes with any kind of situation where you're interacting with any kind of interaction. It doesn't have to be, it's always sales, but it doesn't have to be necessarily something where you're selling a product to somebody. It's always, though, you've got insecure people walking the face of the earth, walking this earth, this rock we call earth, trying to figure it out, and nobody really knows what they're doing.
Mm.
Some people may know a little bit more than others, but dude, that as well gave me permission to be authentic and be myself and then start working on solving problems. Because if we're all just working together to solve a problem, what the fuck is there to be afraid of?
Boom. Man, Kevin, today has been an absolute pleasure. I always love getting a chance to hang out, share some conversation with you, man, get some of your wisdom. And more than anything, again, I'm extremely proud to know that seeing someone who's willing to invest in themselves and learn and take action on what they've learned, no matter what the investment was, whether it was $1 or $1,000, doesn't matter. If you're taking that time to invest in yourself, it's amazing. And you've done amazing things with what you've learned and will continue to do. So if someone liked what they heard today, they want to know, hey, how can I reach out and learn, or how can I follow this guy's story, which I highly recommend because you are an amazing human who puts out great content. What's the best way for them to find you on social media?
Kevin Faulkner, Waco, Texas on Facebook. That's the best way. I've got a Facebook group, Keep Growing in Life and Business. Like to invite everybody. It's a free group. We offer great content in there. And then also you can go to 3bcredithealth.com and schedule a call with me. I'm happy to get on a call with you and talk to you about anything in life just to help you out.
And make sure when you schedule your time, you tell him you heard him on this podcast so that he knows all his good work is going out. Because, man, I know how valuable your time is. And for you to be here with us today, pouring in, means the world to me. And before we get out of here, I got one last favor to ask because, sales, man, there's always new people coming in. There's always new people checking out the show. If someone's new to the industry of sales, what would be like one piece of advice you'd give them on how to go and be successful?
We've talked about it. It's just solve the client's problems, man. I know you're a big believer in empathy to earn confidence. And that's something that's played a huge role in my growth too, is to develop that empathy. Let that client know that you truly care about their problem and then work with them to solve that problem using the skill set that you have.
Kevin, as always, man, as I said, it is a freaking pleasure to speak with you, to have you on. I'm so grateful for your time, and I know the listener definitely got some value out of this. So if you hear me and you're getting some value out of today's show, make sure you tag us, share us on social media at Call the Damn Leads. Go check out my man Kevin on social media. He is just always putting out some amazing content. If you have credit questions, I've seen this dude help dozens and dozens of my friends and family. So reach out to him on 3bcredithealth.com. And again, if you have a crazy sales story, if you've got something you'd like to share with the sales community, that's what this show is for. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Submit your information. Tell us a little bit about what you're going on. We'd love to schedule you to be on the show and share it because that's what I said earlier. This is the greatest community on earth. And sales is the only job where you can literally write your own paycheck through the work that you put in based on the things that you learn. And that's what this show is here to do. Give you some entertainment, give you some education, and point you in the right direction. So Kevin, man, thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. You guys are here. You know what to do. Go call the damn leads. We'll see you on the next show.